Hello, welcome everybody to the final meta report of Set 3 Into the Inklands. We've just had the first two ever Disney Lorcana challenges. I've got myself the Dragonfire promo and the Cinderella Stout-Hearted non-foil version, which is really, really awesome. I was able to be casting the games. I was in the booth with Baker. It was an absolute joy. I'm so grateful for all the support that my viewers have given me since I've been making Lorcana content. I would have been in that booth without all your support, and it was a dream come true. I had so much fun watching the games. Let's look at the deck lists. Starting off with Lille, of course, we've got Atalanta to go through as well. Unfortunately, a few decks still missing here from the Lille event, but do check the link in the description to find those out and have a look through them yourself. There is a few decks in there that are missing, which I am pretty familiar with, so we'll still talk about them a bit, of course, having been watching the event unfold. All right, first here, Steel Amethyst. We did see some Jafar in the top 64. This one not going for Jafar, and the main thing to note here, those triple Pinocchio Talkative Puppet. This is definitely a deck to still look out for in set 4, maybe with Magic Brooms and Yen Sid. Really great to see different Steel Amethyst decks do well, and this is absolutely a really solid option still moving into set 4. One to keep an eye on. Queen's Castle is really very good. Up next we have Sapphire Steel, and this is a deck which I was able to cast on the main stage at one point. The Audrey Ramirez is a particularly interesting tech option in this one, going to be aimed predominantly at the Sapphire Steel, being able to beat Ruby Sapphire a little bit more quickly with Audrey Ramirez, because the combo with Bell and Lucky Dime is phenomenal. Quest for 5 with Bell, and then use the Lucky Dime for another 5, which puts you to 10 lore in a single turn. Then Audrey Ramirez quests, putting you to 12, and whenever she quests, she can ready one of your items. So you ready the Lucky Dime again, use it again on Bell, and that can be 17 lore in a single turn, which is absolutely extraordinary. Of course, the other way you could do this as well, if Audrey Ramirez is on the board with her ward, she's pretty difficult to remove. You can play Bell down, and the same turn you play Bell down, use the Dime on Bell, and then quest with the Audrey and use the item again. So that could be 12 lore potentially out of nowhere, which is really, really impressive. The Fire Cannons going to be aimed at dealing with the more aggressive decks, and this Rise of the Titans came in absolutely clutch in the game that I was casting, as it was able to remove a Queen's Castle, and it was a bit of a game changer. Up next we have Ruby and Amethyst, and I know there's quite a few Ruby Amethyst decks in the top cut. Amongst the decks missing, we saw Reese, who made it to the finals. There's a player known as Devin, who is someone that I am a big fan of in many ways. They've beaten me more than anybody with Ruby Amethyst. They also made the top cut, losing out to the eventual winner. But there was also a more interesting Ruby Amethyst deck than this, which had 0 copies of Be Prepared and 2 copies of Hydra. And in the closed deck list format, the opponents were playing around the Be Prepared, of course, but in the second day in the top cut, it was open deck lists. And I was told by somebody else that that player, when they found out it was open deck lists, was like, oh no, there goes my surprise value. But that Hydra player was still able to make it into the top 4, which was absolutely amazing. This one, a more standard Ruby Amethyst deck. Not really too much to talk about in this one, but Ruby Amethyst had a really good tournament overall, making I think 3 decks into the top cut and 1 in the final. So there was 2 Ruby Amethyst players in the top 4 as well in Lille, so really good showing. But the winner of the whole thing in Lille was Frank Karsten, who is very well known in Magic the Gathering as a Hall of Famer. I did speak with Frank. In fact, Brennan DeCandio messaged me on Saturday evening saying, look out for Frank Karsten tomorrow, they're going to be the winner of the event. And sure enough, Brennan was right. Frank told me he was a little bit surprised that he'd made it maybe as far into the tournament. Around the time it was the top 16, I spoke with him and said, yeah, I haven't actually practiced as much as I might have liked to have, but I'm pretty happy with how it's been going. And of course, what better way to practice than in the Lorcana Challenge in the Swiss format? So by the time Frank was in the final, I'm sure I was feeling incredibly confident with all of the different lines of play. Frank absolutely popped off. The big thing here in this Amber Steel Songs deck is the slightly more aggressive approach. 60 cards, thank goodness. No more of this 66 card nonsense, which is a relief to me. But it's also really interesting to see that instead of some of these more expensive cards that you might see, such as cards like more Tinkerbells, Carefree Surfer, Surfer Stitch, that is, there's more cheap cards in here like the Piglet Poo Pirate Captain. And what Frank was really looking to do here a lot of the time was get to around turn 6, sing a whole new world, and then develop a really wide board with lots of piglets, lots of Mr. Smees. We also loved to see the Mr. Smee and Piglet Poo Pirate Captain synergy. Of course, the Piglet is a captain, which did prevent Mr. Smee from damaging itself at the end of the turn. A single Benger, only 1 bare necessities as well. And this is a really interesting way of going about things. I think in a closed deck list format in particular, if you see Frank ink a bare necessities or play a bare necessities, you're going to imagine there's more in the deck. Similarly with Benger, but in the, of course, open deck list format that was in the second day, maybe that 1 copy of bare necessities could have caused Frank problems, because as soon as it's gone, your opponent knows they're be prepared, can't be discarded again by a whole new world. But clearly it was not an issue for Frank, who put on a fantastic performance and won themselves a full set 3 foil complete package of all the foil cards in set 3, which includes the Enchanteds, as well as a trophy, and of course the Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor. All right, now we're going to look at the Atalanta decks, and many of these decks, it's going to be the first time I have ever seen them, but the winning deck is mind-blowing. I know you guys are waiting to hear what I've got to say about that, because boy, do I have a lot to say. Up first in the top 8 here, we have RMB, who is well known in the community, a very lovely fella, and has done a great job here of getting into the top 8 with Sapphire and Steel, 1 copy of Fire the Cannons, as well as 1 copy of Baboom. 3 copies of Smash is really interesting to see. Definitely going to be aimed at dealing with mainly Ursula, Deceiver of All, but also able to remove Ariel before she's able to sing any songs. No 1 jump aheads, but preferring to go for Mickey Mouse Detective instead. And 2 copies of that Beast Hard-Headed, which is not a card you see very often. You see Benger usually now, but of course Beast Hard-Headed being that 5-cost character, able to sing Grab Your Sword, Let It Go, and a whole new world as well. Really fascinating. I've just noticed, not playing Lucky Dime. There it is. There is a Lucky Dime. I needed to scroll down. Okay, so 2 copies of Dime. Yeah, this is the Simba that I was also talking about. We saw a player using it in a Steel Amethyst deck, this 7-cost Simba. So definitely a card to look out for when you play this character, and whenever it banishes another character in a challenge during your turn, you can either deal 2 damage to a chosen character, or draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards, as well as 1 copy of Tamatoa. Up next, we have a Bucky deck, which is so exciting to see. And actually, I saw a very similar looking deck on the top tables earlier on in the day. One in Lille in day 1 on Swiss, so a very, very similar deck. And what I loved about the deck, which I saw in Lille, was this Beast Relentless absolutely popping off. I actually had the pleasure of casting that series with Steve Warner, who is one of the co-designers of the game. Have to say that was the highlight of the trip for me. We saw not Alex here, but a different player in Lille playing Bucky on turn 2, Prince John on turn 3, and then just continue to discard the opponent's hand. But Bucky, one thing it can really struggle with is against Sapphire. The longer the game goes on, it can just be a real struggle. You don't have many aggressive questers, but that's where the Beast Relentless can come through. When combined with cards like Tinkerbell and other damage tools, we saw Beast Relentless quest, I think, for 8 lore in a single turn over in Lille, and I'm sure Alex was able to utilize a similar theme. 3 copies of Hypnotize is also really interesting to give Alex that extra little bit of spot removal discard. If they just want to remove a card instantly and Bucky is not on the board, Hypnotize is going to be the card of choice over something like a Friar Tuck. All right, up next, still in the top 8, we have Humza on Ruby and Sapphire. Does play the Queen of Hearts, has a couple copies of the McDuck Manor, as well as a single copy of Maui's Fishhook. Not too much interesting stuff going on here, although I will note 3 copies of Judy Hopps. Judy Hopps is going to be really good in the mirror matchups to remove your opponent's Lucky Dime. It can also be pretty good against other Sapphire decks to remove the Fishbone Quill earlier on in the game. And of course, in against opponents who are not using items, you can always use it on your own to draw a card as well. 4 copies of Hades is actually really, really interesting as well, preferring to go for Hades over maybe more copies of Tremaine and Medusa. So I take it all back. This is a really interesting deck and very heavy on the uninkables, it looks like, which is absolutely something I would personally try to do if I was playing Ruby Sapphire myself. One jump ahead, Fishbone Quill, the ramp options in this one. But we're getting closer to the most exciting deck of the whole 2 tournaments, and it was the winner. We're not too far away from getting and talking about that one. Now we've got a Ruby Amethyst deck. Not going to spend too long on this one. The Pinocchio Talkative Puppet, 2 copies of it. Absolutely seems like a lot of the players that were more successful had a couple Pinocchios, at least one, just to have that consistent way of dealing with the Ursula Deceiver of all. But also we saw Pinocchio put in huge work against cards like Cinderella on turn 1, and really overall just a very powerful card when you're able to draw it. But of course, if you have multiple copies in your hand, it can feel pretty pants. Really, you just want one available, and you want to be bouncing it back continuously and utilizing it multiple times. And next, we have another Amber Steel Songs, this one by Zan Syed, who's a very well-known player in the community as well. Big card game background. Pretty similar list, no Piglet, Pooh, Pirate, Captains. Only 3 Cinderellas. I find that absolutely fascinating. Really, really, really interesting. I mean, that just tells you how tight these lists are, that cards like Cinderella are being cut. Not cut entirely, of course, but the only 3 copies in order to squeeze in perhaps some more songs. And I think that's really what Zan is looking to do here with the Sleepy's Flute, have an absolute abundance of songs. Of course, the more songs you play as well, the higher the odds that your aerial spectacular singer is going to be drawing you a card when you need it. And 2 copies of World's Greatest Criminal Mind, when combined with the Queen, of course, you're able to get even more removal. And Sleepy's Flute, definitely Zan's preferred way of dealing with those Ruby Sapphire players. All right, also in the top 4, it says 3rd. Now, in Lille, there was not a 3rd place playoff. I'm going to assume that was the case also in Atlanta, but I'm not sure. So 3rd or 4th for Zan and Alberto. Not confirmed. Let me know in the comments if you do know. And it's another Ruby Amethyst deck. Not really too much to talk about there. 2 copies of Pinocchio, 3 Medusas, 2 Tremaines. Cool. And 1 Spellbook. Spellbook, good in the mirrors. Very good in the mirrors. So that is definitely a mirror tech from Alberto. Another Ruby Amethyst deck. What a showing it had this weekend. It was so close. It got to 2 finals, and in Lille, it was looking like it could be a all Ruby Amethyst final as well for a while, but it didn't quite happen. Now, Matthew here with 1 Chernobog is nice to see. 2 copies of Pinocchio, 2 Yzmas as well, and just 3 copies of Be Prepared. But now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's Spessie's time to talk about Boofasa winning. Boofasa won? What is this deck? Hello? This is the most insane deck I have ever seen in my entire life, and it's by Joshua. Joshua, if you're listening, please hit me up. I would love for you to come on the channel and talk to us all about this deck. I'm sure the people would absolutely love it. Now, where on earth do we begin? Well, I think let's perhaps begin with the fact that there's a Cinderella in this deck, 4 Cinderellas with 0 songs. What is going on, you might be wondering? Well, yeah, let's find out. When I first saw this deck, it was last night. We were at a bar after the tournament, and many of the players were watching the games, and it was like, someone just shows Boofasa 72 card deck won Atlanta. I was like, excuse me, what? It turns out that was a myth. It is a 60 card deck, but it absolutely is Mufasa. If you guys are not familiar with the joke here, at the start of set 3, I referred to Mufasa decks as Boofasa because it is bad. Well, this is purple Mufasa. So my friend Baker, Lorcana villain, told me I could use the joke of Boofasa, but it's very, very strong. So the Cinderella is going to be combining with the Fairy Godmother. So Fairy Godmother, this 3-drop, I'm still not even certain exactly what it does, but whenever you play a character named Cinderella, you may exert chosen character. So this Fairy Godmother, I have never seen play ever. Not once. But if you play a Cinderella, you're going to be getting the ability of Pinocchio, but for an inkable card, right? Pinocchio, of course, uninkable. And Fairy Godmother can do that multiple times when she's on the board. You don't have to necessarily just keep bouncing the Cinderella back. But of course, Perdita here, who really, by the way, is the star of the show. I know a lot of people, whenever Mufasa's in the deck, like to focus on the Boofasa, but it really is all about Perdita here. Perdita card I've been a huge fan of ever since she was released. In fact, if you go back to my first ever set 3 meta report, I predicted Amber, Amethyst, Perdita to be S tier, and I was thinking that had aged very poorly, but clearly Joshua also saw the potential here of Perdita with Amethyst. So what you can do with the Perdita, whenever you play her or whenever she quests, you can put a 1 or 2 cost character from your discard pile back onto the board readied. So that is going to count as Fairy Godmother playing or Cinderella being played. So Perdita able to essentially pull a Pinocchio as well. It's just really, really interesting. Now, the other Fairy Godmother, I still need to work out what she does, if I'm honest. She has Shift 2, she quests for 2. Whenever there's character quests, your characters gain Challenger 2, and whenever there's character... Let's see if I can zoom in a wee bit. That's Rapunzel. Still learning on the job here. And this is it, right? A tournament winning deck. Look at the price spike increase. It's now worth $3. I imagine that might continue to grow. Whenever this challenger quest, your characters gain Challenger 3. And whenever this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand. I haven't had a chance to watch the games from Atalanta yet, but I'm absolutely fascinated to see how this Fairy Godmother and the Cinderella were utilized to perfection. Cusco, Madam Mim, and the Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain. So both decks that won the challenges, playing Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, playing Amber. Absolutely amazing to see. Of course, Rapunzel, we've got the bounce package as you might expect, but only 2 goats and 3 crabs. Peter Pan Shadow, an interesting card in the mixer there as well, to be giving all your characters with Rush Evasive. That's going to be the Madam Mim Fox as the other option there. 1 copy of Chernabog Evildoer, which is something I love to see in a character heavy deck. 2 Chernabogs doesn't really seem worth it. And in fact, I am a proud owner of 1 copy of Enchanted Chernabog myself. It was my first ever Enchanted I got. Now, you might have noticed I am kind of skipping around the Boofasa. And that's because I haven't seen the deck still. You guys know I'm a little bit of a Boofasa hater. I've been talking with a lot of players today on the ride home, and I think a lot of us kind of agree. Is the Boofasa really worth it when you could instead... People are not surprised to hear me say this, are they? I mean, look, clearly this deck is unbelievable, but let's also still discuss the alternative. I'm interested in your opinions in the comments. I'd love to ask Joshua about it as well. Would you rather play the Boofasa, or would you rather have friends on the other side that your Cinderella could sing? Maybe a Queen's Castle, which can be protected by your cards like Madam Mim Fox, the Fairy Godmother exerting things. Personally, the Boofasa looks like the weakest card in the deck. Of course, it gives you a lot of coverage up against Ruby and Amethyst, and if you're already wanting to play all these characters, the Boofasa really is not bad. When I've actually been trying to build these Amber and Amethyst decks myself, I put Perdita in at 6, I put the bounce package in, I definitely didn't put Fairy Godmother in, but the cards I really struggled with at this 5 cost mark, Amber and Amethyst 5 costs, I just didn't like the look of. So what Joshua has been able to do is you find a way of getting a better curve with Boofasa and Fairy Godmother, both providing a whole bunch of value. I'd be really interested to see how often Boofasa was being inked. I'd be really interested to see as well how often Boofasa was hitting some big cards and how often it was hitting little cards. I mean, honestly, Boofasa, even just hitting a rabbit is quite a lot of value. Something like a fox could be interesting as well. So, oh man, this is an absolutely incredible deck. And this is why I love Disney Lorcana. Even 3 months into the meta, there are still surprises to be had. Everyone thought it was solved. We saw so much deck variety, of course, but then Joshua just comes through with an Amber Amethyst Boofasa deck. I think I might have to stop calling it Boofasa, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I really would love to get Josh on the channel, so... Big congratulations to all the players. Massive thanks to all the staff working at these events, the judges making it all happen. Big congratulations to the players. Thank you guys for watching and supporting me and my content. Hoping to bring you guys lots of Set 4 Ursula's Return stuff. Also worth mentioning, I'm going to be at UK Games Expo this weekend. So if you see me there, say hello. Let's play some Lorcana. I'm going to be bringing a whole bunch of decks. So really looking forward to that. Overall, I guess... while I am here and before I go and sleep and rest my voice, now would be a good time to talk about the event in general, what I thought of it. It was just an amazing experience. I got an opportunity to meet so many people that watch these videos, and it was really humbling to just have a little chat with people about Disney Lorcana. And It was just amazing. So I'm really, really feeling incredibly grateful that I was able to broadcast the games. It was an absolute honor. I love Disney Lorcana. I love watching the games. I love broadcasting the games. And I really hope Ravensburger invite me back for more in the future. Chicago is now 3 weeks away. I would love to be at that event if possible. Currently not planned. But if you would like to see me in Chicago, write in the comments. Let's see if we can do it. Like, I don't know. It'll be epic. I just want more Disney Lorcana. I've not had enough. One weekend was not enough for me. I want more. So amazing events. Super awesome. I will say, I have to represent a lot of the players' experiences. A lot of the players were quite unhappy with how the side events were handled. I think in particular over in the States, it was more problematic. There was, I think, a long queues for a lot of the side events. Over in Europe, some of the players, some of the cards ran out on the events. Again, because I was very busy broadcasting, I didn't get that kind of first-hand experience of the event. All things from my point of view were ran incredibly smoothly, but I know that there was definitely some niggles, as you might expect with it being the first events. But I have to say, from my perspective, I was incredibly impressed by the hard work, determination of people working at the event from Ravensburger, from Tournament Center. I want to give a particularly big shout out to who were the organizers of the Lille event. I worked very closely with them, and I was incredibly impressed by how professional they were and how passionate they were about the game as well. Overall, amazing experience. Disney Lorcana is such a good game, and now that we've got this official competitive scene, it's just going to be amazing. I'm just so excited for the future of this game. Big shout out to the winners, Joshua and Frank. Big shout out to Boofasa, proving me wrong. Listen, I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I love to see Amber out on top out of nowhere. I'm going to go and sleep. Have a lovely rest of your day. See you very soon. Ursula's return meta report is going to be coming in the next few days. You do not want to miss that. Give the video a like and subscribe for more. Bye now.